Welcome to Nasdaq Trade Talks. I'm Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq. Joining us for this segment, we have Colin Gounden, CEO of VIA, to discuss the decentralized and individual value of Web3 for businesses. Colin, it's great to have you with us. Welcome to Trade Talks.
Thank you for having me, Jill. It's a pleasure to be here.
You got it. And why is Web3 getting so much attention right now, and why should businesses care?
Jill, that's a great question. So Web3 is really about giving individual consumers ownership of their own data, giving them the tools to make decisions about their data and about the actions they take online. I think with Senate hearings on data privacy and new regulation on data protection like GDPR in Europe or the consumer CCPA in California as two examples, businesses need to adapt. They need to adapt to regulation and adapt to that kind of consumer demand for increased privacy. The same way during the original sort of Web 1, new entrants actually were a big change and replaced some existing brick and mortar companies and changed the way those companies interacted. So even Nasdaq markets had to adapt and change, right, based on sort of the pressure of technology evolution. So maybe a less obvious example is in energy, where for the last 100 years energy was a monopoly. The power companies sent power from a single source to your home. Now with rooftop solar and with electric vehicles, consumers are generating and consuming data or consuming energy in more places, and data is a requirement to be able to manage that and keep the grid up and running everywhere. And that data is technically owned by the consumers more than anywhere else, and so and not the utilities. So there's this increased need for data privacy and data ownership at a consumer level.
Tell us about VIA and where the company fits in the Web3 ecosystem.
It's a good question. VIA is at the infrastructure layer. So most of what we do is in smart contracts for the secure analysis of highly confidential data. For example, we have our own blockchain. That blockchain is in daily use. It's the only blockchain in daily use by the U.S. Department of Defense. And our software has this very high cybersecurity accreditation that allows us to deal with top secret and above classified level information. All of that technology can be used and is, it keeps the same secrets safe for consumers as well.
Your focus at VIA is in clean energy, with the heat waves in Europe and the US and the Russia-Ukraine war impacting fuel prices. How can Web3 help there?
That's a good question. I think right now it's a basic supply and demand issue. So wars, weather, waning infrastructure, they mean both reduced power supply and increased demand. And renewables are great, but they're variable. You never know when the sun's going to shine or the wind's going to blow. And so you have these moments where demand can outstrip supply. And moderating consumer demand is the best way, the easiest way to make sure we can continue to leverage renewables and maintain grid reliability. Web3 is a way to enable consumers to take ownership of their data and get compensated for the actions they take related to turning down their thermostat or to run their pool pump at night versus during the day. And VIA has a platform, Skylight platform, that's an example that enables this kind of real-time but private energy transactions at a consumer level. And we think that sort of recent extreme weather events in Texas and in New York have really shown that this kind of consumer action in aggregate can have a huge impact. It's basically a requirement now to balance the grid and keep power up and running.
And finally, Colin, I want to go back to the work that you do with the U.S. Department of Defense to wrap up here. It seems at odds with Web3's decentralized and individual values. So explain to us, what's the connection with the DoD and Web3? Okay.
So that's a super thoughtful question, because it's it's not obvious or not intuitive necessarily, but sometimes I think people forget that the crypto in cryptocurrency is actually for cryptography. It's all about encryption. And a lot of what's happening in the Web3 world is directly related to defense and vice versa. So in short, anytime you want to keep data private and secure and compartmentalized, but also verify that it's real, right? If you can't see the data, how do you know it's real? How do you know it's actually not, it is what people say it is? Then, Web3 technologies like blockchain and smart contracts, and also great, new math like zero knowledge proofs, all of those things have a huge advantage in keeping data private and secure. So, an example might be that you have 30 countries in NATO, and all of whom right now, more than ever, need to share data and information because they have a conflict right on their doorstep. But clearly, 30 different countries, they don't have, by definition, don't have integrated systems or information sharing. And frankly, they don't even want to share all of the information with each other. So, if you can use Web3 technologies today to share safely and securely insights across 30 million, Web3 users, then 30 intelligence agencies, well, that's not so much of an issue. And that's essentially what VIA is doing. We're leveraging Web3 technologies to help consumers, and also validating that security and that the privacy measures with, through our work with DoD customers.
All right, Colin, we appreciate the insight. Thanks for joining us on Trade Talks. I'm Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq.
It's a pleasure. Thank you.